What's up, everybody, and welcome to a WNBA State of Mind where we mainly discuss basketball, but we love other sports. And we'll say what's up to my guy, Dominique Don Dada Wilford here. We're getting ready to chop it up. We're going to talk about what's hot because we in the spot and the WNBA there's not too many stories that are not hot right now, from Caitlin to Angel to Indiana to Chicago to the Aces, New York staying number one for quite some time, and then Indy surprising everybody and coming in sixth. I didn't expect that at all, the way that they were playing, but then they turned it up. And that's accredited to the players. I think that's accredited to a lot of the players just deciding that they were going to play as a team and they were going to lose themselves so that they can get in the championship. And that is very hard to do, my friend. So, we got a lot to discuss, but I really, really want to talk about the A, and I really want to talk about the Aces, and a few other topics. But it's not going to be a lot. I want to stick with those two topics. Right now you got New York sitting in first place, Minnesota second, Connecticut, the Aces, Seattle, Indy surprisingly went to six. Phoenix, and then the ATL, your team, they squeeze up in there. So let's talk about them because they were topsy turvy, and at one point in time, had us concerned, in regards to that whole thing because we didn't really know how they were going to play out. We had no idea how it was going to play out because all of a sudden they hit this lull, and then they were playing good, and then they start playing bad again. So it wasn't making any sense. So I'm glad that they got it back on track. They've added some intricate pieces, you know,
Mhm.
I want to say shout out to all of the teams who are now entertaining my Nigerian queens because I've been screaming about Sika Kone for a long time, and she's playing and she had a really nice game the last game in DC. I was really proud of her. She's a rebounder trying to find a jumper at this particular time. Atlanta picked up just a diamond and a point guard, and
Mhm.
she's been ripping the nets internationally for a while. She deserves a spot. And I just think that she's like going to be a great addition to the team. So talk about your Atlanta squad.
Yeah, she's gonna be an absolutely fantastic pro as she goes on her basketball journey here. The dream, their front office, the entire staff, kudos to them on kind of reining things back in, so to speak, halfway through the year after the Team USA was done and they resumed. They did pick up some things, they did get back together and refocus. But they got a bad draw. They got a bad draw. I mean, they got to play the Liberty. The Liberty on a mission. Last time I just checked, the Liberty were up 15 at the start of the first quarter. They kind of look like a deer in headlights right now. The spot of the garden, the lights may be a little bit too big for that young squad. But as I said before, at the start of the year, they are definitely to reckon with within the league once they just make those few subtle changes that we talked about earlier on in the year, but that veteran Liberty squad, yeah, break out the brooms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they gave them the business in the last game. So I don't know if the lights are too bright. Right now it's about survival of the fittest, and they did
Mhm.
just get off a plane, and they did just have a game, and they still got the airplane legs, and recuperation is important, hydration is important, sleeping well is important, staying away from alcohol is important, hanging out is important. You got to stop doing those things, and so eat the right things, and stay mentally focused, and even to the people that you hang out with, those people got to be feeding you the right things. From the coaching staff all the way to when you step outside of the court and you go out into the general public and who your circle is. And so there's a lot that's involved in it, and if you don't tap into that, it could turn out ugly. New York, certainly, I know that they knew that they were going to have to play today. They were going to have to play today. And for New York to come out of this, Jordan Canada and Gray are going to have to go ham bananas like they did the last game. I mean, it can be done. They've already proved it, but they don't want to get down too much. And right now, New York has the crowd behind them. It's playoffs, baby, and you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind. We're chopping it up. We're talking about all of the different scenarios that could possibly happen. We're talking about Atlanta and what their expectations are right now for the playoffs. Talking about New York, they're sitting in a beautiful spot. Home court advantage is always perfect. I think they understand, importance of that, and that's why they came out like gangbusters. This afternoon, early in the afternoon, it's a tough game to play. That noon game is hard to play. Hard to play. Your body is not accustomed to playing a game at 12 o'clock. Your mindset, it's a whole different ball game. So once you start playing in the playoffs, it's kind of like the golf course, the terrain, all of those different factors play in. So what do you think that Atlanta has to do in order to come out of this? Even though it doesn't look good, listen, anything can happen.
They
So
have got to find a way to get Ryan Howard involved. I think Sandy Brondello has cracked the Ryan Howard code. She's got her Ryan Howard rules. If you notice, every game that they play to Liberty, Ryan Howard, whenever she's coming off a screen, she's moving back and forth trying to find openings. She's getting bumped every time. They're bumping her every time. They're making sure, somebody is touching her. Every time she moves, she gets a little frustrated. They got to make those proper adjustments. They got to move the basketball better. They got to actually communicate on defense. Like the Liberty scheme, sometimes, everything starts to stewy down low. And then she'll pull herself out to the 3-point line. And then all of a sudden you got Benaja Laney down there posting up. Sandy's got some great offensive schemes that keep teams guessing.
yeah,
Goody, you know what? I want to throw a fun fact at you real quick. Out of the 36 rookies that were drafted this year, only 16 made a roster, and
mm,
only 6 are in the playoffs.
yeah, absolutely. It's tough. It's real tight. And praise God for the new teams that are coming around. They can't come around
Mhm.
enough. Shout out to Portland for coming back. I had a fan that said this, and this is a shout out to the WNBA for making that happen. They said that we love the name Fire, but instead of saying fire like it's normally spelled FIYA, Portland Fire. So I just want to throw that out there. Also, another tip, okay, that I did not say, and this is the most important thing that you can do during the playoffs, and the best thing that you can do for yourself. You have to stay attached to video. You got to stay attached to the video. Okay, you can't blame her not getting open on the coaches, nor the ball always finding her, because in the playoffs it's going to be tight. Regular games, if you got a good defender on you, I played the three, so I was going to have some people on me, and when I was playing, people were switching off from the one, the two, and the three, and so you're going to have some people that really play lockdown defense. Now, if I have somebody like a Ruthie Bolton on me, what am I going to do? I'm going to take her down to the block and I'm posting her up. Dawn Staley bring the ball around. She's going to dump it down. When I was playing in Richmond, anytime I had a guard on me that was smaller, that's on my point guard to wave everybody else off. And then I circle down, act like I'm a cut, come back, and then just post up, plays over. Why go through the whole play if you don't have to? Also,
Mhm.
another scenario is too, when you're watching those videos, you can pick up where people are bumping you, where people
Yeah.
are doubling down on you, how they're playing you when you go to the baseline, how they're playing you when you play to the middle, how they're playing you when you're coming off the flare. So then if you're all collectively doing that, if it's the time now where the coaches gotta, do less and the players gotta do more. So you got your 5 players, you're starting 5 all the way to your 6th and your 7th man. Y'all should be getting together in the hotel room, looking at the film and breaking it down. Okay, well, on the flare, they switching, so we need to catch them. We need to catch them on the roll, or
Mhm.
she's switching on you. You gotta roll back. Okay, or your man is hedging out too far. You need to go ahead and just cut to the basket. I'm a dime you. But you don't have that type of communication if you don't sit down and do that in the hotel. Go out to eat, talk about it. Go down to the lobby, walk through it. Like I said, the coach becomes less and you have to become more. 50-50 balls, rebounding, communicating, becoming one, moving like you're one. You're on a battlefield. You think about back in the day how they used to have war. They did that on the chessboard.
Mhm.
You're playing chess right now. Who moving here? What's doing what? When I got to bring out my knight.
Young players, I hope you listening.
Rook.
You
Center,
dropping gems.
center the rook. We got to bring balance back to the floor. What happened to the good old days where you running plays? That's all we did. All we did in Utah was we just four corner people. I started on the block, popped up, got the ball, get out of the way. If they double down, I'm dumping it down to Natalie. You know, if the person doesn't obey the rules and leaves the corner, Jay Bird is over there, AZ killing him. Phil. So those things don't happen if you're not communicating with each other, you know, and you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind just over here dropping nuggets to the young players, all of
Yeah,
those folks out there. Look up what you mean in the game of chess. Get out there and do what you need to do. That's what it really boils down to. We have these matchups that are bananas. Okay, New York, Atlanta, Vegas, Seattle. We got to talk about that. Mini Phoenix, Minnesota's coming out of that. I think fairly easy. Sun, Indy. I'm predicting Indiana to come out of there.
I agree. I
I
fully agree.
tired.
2-1.
Okay. Bottom line is, it's going to be, I would say, a dog fight, but you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind, and we are females, so it's going to be a cat fight. Okay, every game. New York might be a little shell shocked or whatever the case may be, but I promise you, in that locker room, something going to have to change. You know, you're going to have to fight like a dog to come out of these games. 50-50 balls matter. How you start off matters. Whether you communicate matters. Whether you rebound matter. All those things. And so moving to another series I think is going to be tight and is actually scary to me because it involves my Aces versus Seattle. Scary. Okay. Now you had Minnesota who went out and made some moves. And if they win the championship, you blame it on DC for trading home to the center. Intricate pieces. Okay. And then when I'm looking at the roster, with Bell, Alyssa Clark, just always has been an X factor for them for quite, the last 2 years. Okay. However, this year, somebody else is going to have to be the X factor because they play too big. So the Aces can't get away with Clark playing in the post as much, especially against the Minnesota. And even Seattle, because Seattle, they have triple post action. So I saw that, you know, I haven't seen her play. I don't know if she's hurt, but if I had Queen Egbo and knowing her shot blocking abilities, the way she runs the floor like a gazelle and is energy, 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 and you can't coach that. That's got to be something that comes from within. I would play her more. Gustafsson has definitely stepped her game up. And I promise you that Tiffany Hayes watched the episode that we did two episodes ago when I said the 25 things that she needed to do. And those things she came out and she did. You know, you get knocked down, okay? We're not folding up. You getting right back up and you getting in the mix. Okay, you rebounding, you getting 50-50 balls, you driving to the basket, you scoring. We need you to score 15 points a game, 16 points a game. Okay. What does she do? Last game, comes out of it, 21 points. Think she might have had 5 rebounds. She needs to stay there because if she doesn't play like that, they don't advance very far. You know, not to the playoffs, in my opinion, because a lot of people not to the final, you know, the championship game, because Minnesota is loaded. So, you know, I don't, you know, I'm glad that they made the adjustments that they made. You know, the last game that they had, Skylar Diggins and Tiffany Hayes got into a tiff, right? Because Hayes stepped over and said something to her, you know? And I need that nasty from you. That's what I need for the Aces. I need y'all to come with the nasty. Not just Asia come with the nasty, okay? Because Asia's nasty jumped into Tiff. Now I needed to jump into Chelsea. I needed to jump into Kelsey. I needed to jump into Bell. I needed to jump into all of them. You know, Egbo was out there. You know, I mean, I need her to do her thing. Sydney Colson, she gonna defend. She blocking shots. She had a monster block last game, so she's a great defender. However, you got Diggins, you got Jewel, you know, you got Mambasita over there, you know. Then you got Boomquay, you know, and then they got those post players that they run, and they she plays them, and they come in and they run a triple post every now and again, and I like to see her running more actually because that's a problem when you're running a triple post and you got your 3, your 4, and your 5 that are dogs. It's problematic. So that's why I'm afraid of that matchup, you know, because they could squeak in and steal one. If we come in, and we have a tendency to do this, if we come in like, oh yeah, look at me, you know, and then, you know, come in with that fake swag and all this here, confident, and then you pissing the other team off, and then they come in and they play well. Talk to me, Dom.
The Storm are going to take today's game. They're going to take today. You said just that one game. It's going to be today. You were right on all your points regarding the Aces. You know, I hope the coaching staff replay this, take that back, and play it before pregame. You know, sometimes you got to shake things up. It's from one former player to a current player. I think they're going to take that message, and it's going to be well received. But I do see the Storm taking today's game in a tight one. They just got to put 4 good quarters together. They have not done that against the Aces this year. If you look back at all the other 4 games that were played, it's always 3 really good quarters and 1 stinky of a quarter, 1 bad quarter. They put together 4 good quarters, they got that ball game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, you know, and I'm having confidence in the fact that, you know, we got the home court advantage. Thank God we flipped that around because at one point in time it was flip flop. They were 4 and we were 5, and that would have really been danger. We turned it up. You know, I need people to do what everybody has to play their role, okay, and overplay your role, you know, so we could get past Seattle. Not so we getting past Seattle because so we can relax because there's no relaxing. But I think that that's the one team because you had their number. It's hard to keep on beating a team, beat a team 3 times, 3 and 4 times, you know, because everybody watches film. Everybody watches film. So, with that being said, we talked about a couple of subjects. The New York game is going on. Got a day filled with basketball, you guys. So check it out, ESPN. I know some of it conflicts with the NFL, but you got in picture. You have all of these multi screens. When I'm on the WNBA app, I can watch two games at a time. So I know how these dudes do. A lot of you guys are in your man cave, and you got two or three TVs going on and a whole bunch of little inboxes. Make sure that you have one of those little in pictures of the WNBA. We appreciate all of the support. The games that'll be going on. Like I said, New York versus Atlanta, they're playing right now. Vegas, Seattle, Mini, Phoenix, Sun, Indy, cat fight. Another cat fight. Indy, watch out for them. They can sneak up, and I think the reason is because I find that they play the Sun. They play their their starters way too much. They got a lot of minutes on their legs. And when it was 2 games ago, I can't remember. My memory doesn't serve me correctly, but I watched them and they were very leg weary. And for some reason, Dewana Bonner is not taking as many shots and she's not being as aggressive, And Caitlin Clark she's just not afraid no more.
No.
And when she first came in, Carrington was giving her the business. And if I know who I am and then know who Caitlin is, she's a video watcher. Because you
Hmm.
always see the adjustments in her game, so she adjusts her game accordingly. And now, not only has she adjusted her game accordingly, but so have her teammates adjusted accordingly. Their pick and roll is so dangerous. There's nobody running the pick and roll like Kate, and Wheezy when they're coming off that screen and roll, just picking apart players in the post. Just
Yeah.
drawing and kicking if need be, or just popping the post and coming off the screen, turn around ISO. I love the offense that they're running, and it seems like it's like conducive to their personalities. It's working out well for them. I think that they're the most dangerous team in the playoffs.
I totally agree, Goody. I totally agree. They are going to shock a lot of people. It's a little bit more than the CC effect, even though you and I know, as former coaches as well, what happens with a rookie when we get to the end of the season? What do we say? You're no longer a rookie. You're not going to do rookie things. She's in her second year right now, and the
Yeah.
world is about to be put on notice.
Yeah, absolutely. The world's already been put on notice. I give her all of the blessings and all of the energy in the world because I see what she's doing.
Mhm.
Proud of this. She's a self-made woman. Kudos out there to Iowa University and their marketing department. I'm going to give them their kudos. My opinion is basically this. The reason why, because I can see it. Being a businesswoman, why she was chosen as that person. And it all stems back to Iowa, when Iowa decided that they were going to have a basketball game in the middle of a football field.
Mhm.
What a brilliant idea. Okay. Now you're breaking all kinds of crazy records. I can't even remember what the numbers were. Whatever network that was on, and they're watching, and any other television network was watching, saw that girl's worth at that moment. And it probably was more than 82 million dollars.
Mhm.
The TV contract that was signed.
Yeah.
The girl has the ability to pull in that kind of money. So where's the beef? Wendy's got to hook me up for that hook I just said. Where's the beef? His bottom line is this. What player has ever done that? And then gets hated on and busts up everybody's record. Everybody, nobody was safe, and you still ain't. It ain't safe, it ain't safe, it ain't safe. And you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind here chopping up with my guy, Don Dada. Thank you for joining in, listening to the show. We appreciate you. Don't forget to download, share, like, repost, support, and tell a friend about a WNBA State of Mind. Sammy Sosa. Peace out. We good.